Hello, everyone. My name is Asal Shokati, Ayurvedic practitioner in Houston, Texas, and I'm continuing the series of chats with other practitioners for your enjoyment. And today we have a very, very special guest, a dear friend we met on the internet, on Instagram, but our connection got really deep, really fast because of the amazing work she's been doing and encouraging others to go through their process of healing. So I want to introduce Agnieszka, or Aga as we call her, Furtak, BA. She's certified hypnotist by National Guild of Hypnotists, quantum healing hypnosis technique practitioner, and is a master healer trained in Usui Shiki Ryoho tradition. Since 2012, having worked with thousands of clients, she developed her own holistic integrative trauma healing modalities, including regression techniques in order to effectively take hypnosis subjects beyond their past life memories and trauma to a more meaningful soul experience. Without further ado, here's Aga. Go ahead and introduce yourself in your own personal language to our audience, please.
You did such a wonderful job. I'm so honored to be here and spread the word of how I have healed myself and how over time I started to notice certain modalities working better than others. The idea is to use something that is more universally accessible, that doesn't depend on belief system or religious background, that is more science-based, that is more neurology-based. So I'd like to see myself more as a researcher of healing modalities and practitioner. And in terms of my function in the healing space, I provide safe space and ask the right questions so that when the client is ready, we can go deeper into that transderivational search engine, which is our body. It's like a Google search engine, right? So I just ask questions and the healing happens because of healing, not because of healer. So my function is really to be like an overseer and monitor kind of from above all those functions of the mind and the physicality, because it works in a dance, in a concerto. And when we know how to break down certain patterns of thought or behavior that is dysfunctional for us, we can, experience the breakthrough without having a profound breakdown that can be too intense for people. So I would say, I'm a psychic surgeon in my own words.
From science to, the other end of the spectrum, but the whole goal is to reach a state of being or fall into that state of being that's natural to us. So no matter what modality, whatever works, but it's pretty interesting that you have tapped into so many different things, like from different traditions, and now you have created and you are continuing to create different things based on various traditions. One of the works we did together, and as a matter of fact, it was on Instagram Live. It went on for a very, very long time. It was neuro-modulation, correct?
Correct. Yes. So that technique is fundamental to my practice right now. And it is based on neuroscience, and it's based on principles of neurolinguistic programming. The principle of this method lays in the premise that every memory that we have, however hidden or unconscious it is, has several components that we can tap into in order to extrapolate the information that will help us. And we don't have to know the details, but sort of an essence, right? And that essence has a context in terms of colors, in terms of senses in, a sense of smell, sense of touch, temperature, body posture. So every memory we have, good or bad, neutral, will have those components because it happened not in a vacuum, it happened in a context. And subsequently, it will have a connection to the physical body. So when we can travel back on wings of time to certain memories that evoke, let's say, exhilaration, ecstasy, peace, love, or some less pleasant experiences, there will be a somatic address, physical address. So most people will feel it's somewhere in the body. Sometimes the feeling is fluctuating between the body and a little bit outside of the body, somewhere within vicinity of maybe 3 to 5 feet around the body. So in this process, you will learn that you're neurologist.
I'm sorry.
Say that again, please.
Could it be the energetic body that some refer to? Okay.
Correct. And when we can access the feeling through those components, visual, kinesthetic, auditory, olfactory, gustatory, and we can point to where we feel it, we can actually refile or reframe the experience that has been difficult for us. And that process is something that we can learn. So it's a skill. It's literally about doing the drills, following the instructions. And the key to success is absorption. So you don't have to believe in the process. You don't have to prepare for it. There's nothing on your side outside of you being fully present and allowing yourself to play and pretend, so to speak. So like a child, you come back to that awareness of, being interested in a toy and you playing that game. Just like every kid that you see on a playground, they are so involved in the game, everything else disappears, right? So really all I require from my clients is absorption, full absorption. And there are people who come from, different backgrounds, and it's not easy for them to get absorbed because they're used to having very dispersed mind, very dispersed energy. It's not safe to be present, fully present, because they would have to face difficult emotions, and they've been dissociating, coping their whole life. So that can be very scary. All of a sudden, I ask them to be fully present and notice the way they feel in terms of sensations. So sensation could be emotion, but it's also, a feeling, physical feeling, right? So it's a little bit of enigma for them, and it's a new experience. So people have all kinds of mechanisms of self-protection, and my role is to make sure that progressively we remove those inhibitions. We get deeper, and next thing you know, the client is in an altered state of consciousness. Because when you have a great time in life, you are sort of in an altered state of consciousness, because you don't pay attention to what's happening around. You are fully in your own holographic, embodied experience of your avatar. But that is something
so that's very interesting. You're saying altered state of being, but that to me sounds like natural state of being.
Yeah, absolutely. And people don't know that they're actually doing that. They just don't control that state very well. They do it by default. So we're all like walking, being pretty much hypnotized all the time by ideas, by feelings, by other people, by TV programming or whatnot. Wow. I mean, if you think about anything that repeats itself over time, it's going to land on you, right? It's going to get absorbed. Mm-hmm. But I'm talking about really consciously choosing what feelings, what emotions, what sensations, what experiences you want to focus on. So the work is on focusing deliberately on some things you want to give yourself over and over again, like feeling good for no reason, because you deserve it, because you want it, like an ice cream. It's okay to want it, and it's okay to give yourself that feeling without, going for sugar. You can have the same experience.
Yes.
And when we feel full, when we feel that we can give ourselves that soothing component, then other aspects of us that are less pleasant can safely surface because there is enough of that supporting force. So that's how I prepare clients, right? First, let me give you something good and let me help you access that. Let me show you how it's done. You can learn this technique, you can repeat it. And then when you're ready, when you feel safe, let's talk about those less pleasant and let's clear it as safely, easily as possible.
You know what you just said reminds me of, it's like stories of people awakening and they have maybe prolonged or like a short burst of awakening and everything is amazing, but the integration process can take years and is gruesome, but then you always have something good to go back to. But it is a painful process, but we really need to be constantly aware that this is a passing moment till we are fully immersed in it. You call it the altered state, but say the reality, the truth of our being.
Yeah, truth of our being is very personal, very individual. And it is something that we can attain in the privacy of our mind. You know, what is outside, we cannot fully control, right? But our internal state doesn't require necessarily years of meditation, but it requires deliberate focus on certain things and letting go of other things. So yeah, there is some sifting through that needs to happen, and it has to be done, you know, every day, kind of as an exercise, so that you learn even your own preference. Because if you have been living in not so positive states for years, for example, affected by trauma like me or you or so many other people in this world, you don't even know what you want, right? You can't even define what feeling good is like for you, because it's not a normal state. When it happens, like you said, it feels like this enormous opening, but how do you integrate? You have no idea how to hook it, how to anchor it into your being so it stays. So part of what I teach is also not just experiencing that feeling good, but how to anchor it into your neurology through some gestures that you can very easily repeat anywhere you are in the world, in the privacy of your mind. So you're activating your body. Again, it could be, obviously has to be physical, but also, you know, the more senses you engage, the better. So color, touch, smell. I will obviously guide the audience through the process so they can get a mini experience of how it's done. Yeah. But that's how we anchor that feeling good. So when we repeat those gestures, it will become automatic. It's sort of like in a Pavlov dog's experiment, you know, like when the dogs were supposed to be fed, they're already drooling at some point before the food came, because they're recognizing the bell that was signaling the food is coming. It's the same thing. You are omitting some aspects. So obviously externally nothing is happening, yet you get the same hormonal response.
This is incredible. It's pretty incredible. You're explaining something that can, without enough knowledge, can be shunned as bypassing, but you're going the opposite direction. You are not bypassing. It's not a spiritual, emotional bypassing. It is embodying all that, which I just love these conversations, because there's so many different ways to get to it. And a lot of people like you are stepping up and vocalizing. I know you're writing your book, which I will definitely ask you about it in a second, but that you're not saying there's no darkness, there's no like shadow work that needs to be pushed to the side, but it is like, you know, the integration of all that, and the result is like, feels like having ice cream.
Yeah, exactly, or whatever your favorite thing is, because, you know, everything that we do in therapy has to happen by a client's standard and definition of feeling good. What feels good to me might be different for you, it's different for everyone, right? We all have uniquely formulated neurons and those pathways in our neurology, in our brain, and the way we walk automatically through those pathways to get a reward. You know, it's based on habits. So it's going to be unique for every person. You know, you like this kind of flavor of ice cream, I like this kind of flavor. So it's always very personal. And yes, we are absolutely talking about experiences that are unpleasant. We're just doing it in an indirect form. So for example, if there is a feeling that you'd like to clear, a lot of people come to me with permanent anxiety. It's a very unpleasant state, right? Sometimes it takes years and people have this feeling either in the belly or like in the upper chest, close to the heart. And there's a heart palpitation, there's this fear that has a very physical manifestation, right? And if I would ask someone to give me a number associated with this feeling, and then just imagine there is a picture somewhere floating around you connected to the feeling, go ahead and grab that picture, right? Tell me, first impression within 2-3 seconds, what color do you see, or series of colors? Let's create a frame around it, and let's look at this picture. You're not looking at an event, you're looking at the picture. It could be anything.
Yeah.
Purple, heavy, metallic, we bring the picture to the face. We smell it, we scratch it, we listen to it, we put it behind, we put it in front, we start playing with the size and shape. This is called neuromodulation. In a nutshell, you start modulating your neurology because every experience is connected to a frame, so to speak. When you are in fear, right? When something happens that you're fearing, you freeze. That's the frame. The frame is connected to the posture, the whole context, of course, your body position, your breathing pattern, even your gaze. So when we start modulating that, we're loosening up, we're softening that rigid frame. We can do it in many, many ways. I'm going to show you today a simple example of how it's done. And any feeling you'd like to clear, you can use this process to soften and safely refile and reprocess the experience without, going through years of therapy and talking about the actual event. But you have to be, willing to do that with me and be okay with feeling certain sensations, because as we refile, there will be feelings that will come up. There will be shifts in the body. There will be maybe shifts in temperature, tingling. Remember your experience, right? You experience some of those elements.
And I would love to invite everyone to check it out. We will share your contact information, your Instagram handle and everything. You have several of those experiences recorded and there. Yet anybody can listen to it, go through that process for however long they want, because once I learned it, and for months and months, I was doing that. The beauty of it is, as you said, it's not about remembering the event. It is just feeling associated with it.
Correct.
Doesn't trigger any further trauma.
Yes, exactly.
It's a very safe experience without you bypassing anything.
Exactly. And when you feel safe, when we layer safe and pleasant memories, kind of like layers in a cake or layers in a perfume or something you enjoy, layers of softness of the blanket, you are internally softening into yourself. So these other components can more naturally come to surface. It's not forced, right? We're not forcing anything. We're creating a space of allowing, and that allowing will eventually, as you get familiar with the technique, will let you feel that it is okay to let go of those other feelings. You don't have to hold on to it, because part of our human nature is to go back to it. It's kind of like a anniversary thing. Oh, so and so died, like my brother committed suicide. I see this all the time. People remember those events and they sort of make them stronger because maybe honorable reasons, but they give themselves the service. They don't know how to remember someone they've lost, for example, in a way that it's loving, like if they were alive next to them. They remember the pain, right? And they cultivate that pain, and that becomes embodied experience that will over time weigh you down. And then you lose the ability to feel joy again, and you lose yourself. You don't even know how to go back, how to trace yourself back. So this process will allow you to experience discomfort without freaking out, without, maybe needing medical assistance. And of course, practice and being disciplined is a key, especially like if people have a lot of these events that are unprocessed. So I don't know, maybe you can tell me how it is in your practice, but I see that for me, most clients that come, they have heavy trauma, they've been to therapy, or they actually have been avoiding feeling emotions for many, many years. And they come to me and it's almost like they experience miracle, or they expect a miracle, they get absorbed, but then they don't follow the instructions on their own. They get a recording from a session. And as you beautifully said, you repeated the exercises and you are refining, because you notice the shift. And that's what I do as well. If I'm going for a situation that's uncomfortable, obviously I have a lot of anchors already installed. So I can release certain hormones on demand. I don't have a lot to clear, but there are situations that, yeah, I feel discomfort and I start pulling it out, that energy, and then start modulating it, because the premise is just like you're a dynamic being. You're constantly evolving. You're not just this one entity the way you view yourself. So some level of flexibility is obviously important, right?
Yeah, and new things happen, as you said. We work on it. Let's say we get everything cleared out.
Yeah,
new things happen in life. All of a sudden, 2020 happens.
And you never get it done. So being okay with being active in creating your own happiness every day, just like you brush your teeth. You gotta do this neurological hygiene and help yourself stay oiled, because it's a mechanism that is very beautiful and very intelligent. But as any mechanism in physical dimension, it needs to be tended to. So person who is lazy, who comes to someone like you and me and wants to get better, wants to just fix something, and I have occasionally clients like that, it never works. There is sort of a secondary gain there, and they want to prove something to themselves, and that is okay, but that is not healing. That will
response to hurt. You really have to take responsibility, and
yes, exactly,
feel the urge that something needs to change and shift. Well,
exactly.
You're good living proof that it works. Just pay attention to your language. Just paying attention to your language it's just a good indication that the work makes a difference, because when we are trapped, within our traumas and hurts and depressions and anxiety, our language is just so different. It automatically comes out differently than, for instance, of somebody like you. You talk about perfumes and cakes and things that maybe on a superficial way a lot of us relate to, for happy memories. But it is a reality.
But it runs so deeply, it's present in our cellular body. It's present in all the cells, not just our memories from this lifetime, but our ancestors. So some of the trauma could be residual trauma, and it could be something you cannot pinpoint. You don't remember, you can't recall why you have certain phobia. It's just something that you want to clear because it's disturbing to you, right? So this can be utilized with any kind of debilitating, uncomfortable, permanent for a person, right? Experience that just repeats itself. and being curious, right, about the self, and knowing that, and really trusting that all the capacity to heal and to upgrade is within. All of it is within. It's so essential, because people with trauma feel helpless.
Yeah.
They can read a bunch of books, right? They want to trust one person, another person. Everybody's offering something different. There's a lot of confusion. There's a lot of things on the market. And there is a less accountability, self-accountability. Mm-hmm. So only when you reach that threshold as a person that you're ready to let go of those past definitions, opinions, dominions, beliefs, that you're going to really fully be able to come back to yourself. So I would love to
guide us through a short exercise, for lack of a better word, and then we can carry on the conversation.
Absolutely. So let's all take a few deep breaths, and you're welcome to close your eyes and relax into your own being. And the breath is not forced, it's just experienced fully. Sort of like a pebble that you drop into the pond, and it reverberates, and that breath just reaches trillions of cells in your body instantaneously. And as you tune into my voice, notice that as you listen more carefully to my voice, there is a softness that touches your ears, that travels into your earlobes, travels into your membranes, travels with your breath through your nostrils, and relaxes your jaw, relaxes your tongue. You can feel it swirling in the back of your throat. And perhaps when I talk to you, naturally, you start seeing a color, maybe smelling a fragrance, maybe remembering what it's like to lay in the sun and feel that warmth on your skin. And you gently fly back on the wings of time to a time in your life when you felt very, very safe. And I'm talking about level of safety in which there is no negativity, absolutely no negativity, even for a fraction of a second. And if you cannot find a memory like that, imagine what would it feel like to be absolutely safe. So wherever you are, notice the smell, the colors, the softness around you. And if you're connecting to a specific memory, notice there is a feeling in the body connected to that experience of safety. Simply point to where you feel it. First impression. And notice that there is a color or series of colors connected to that feeling. And what I would like for you to do now is simply flow the colors above your head like a ball of energy. And begin to just watch and observe as this colors are expanding, filling up your entire room, your entire space, from ceiling to the floor, from wall to wall, and all points in between. And that energy begins to thicken, begins to wrap itself around you like a soft blanket, isolating protective suit that just organically feels like your second skin. You can't tell the difference between that feeling and your body. You intermingle. And when you're ready, take a nice deep breath and flow those colors through the body, or that color. And with every breath you take and every beat of your heart, simply watch as the tension in the body begins to melt. This energy is like hot water pouring over ice cubes. And all I want you to do is notice when you breathe that energy through, connected to this colors, softness starts to permeate and starts to become a dominant feeling in the body. So if you are sitting, you can simply recline and allow yourself to float and drift and float. And now, imagine that you could access that feeling on demand. And if you want to do that, we need to anchor that feeling so deeply, so completely, somewhere within you, so that no force in the universe can turn it off or take it away, not even you. And how do we do that? We visualize, just like in an apartment, we are hanging a picture or a coat on a hanger. We want to find a space in the body where we can hook, attach, anchor that feeling. Give it space. Just like you're putting, let's say, a spice in a shelf. It belongs there. So you physically do that, like in your head, mentally, like if you would do that, you place it there. And whenever you want to access that feeling, you open that cupboard and you touch it. So how do you anchor it? That feeling has a color. You imagine that color if you want to access that feeling of safety. And you create a simple gesture. That could be touching your left ear. That could be tapping your chest. That could be touching certain fingers together. So whatever the anchor that you want to use, just practice for a moment, the color, the actual movement of the body, the touching, the tapping, whatever you choose. And wherever in the body you anchor that feeling, focus on that. And now try to take this feeling away. Try to turn it off. Notice what happens instead. For most people, it gets stronger or it just stays there. It becomes more and more prevalent over time as we practice. So we're using essentially everything that you have learned in life, and we're accessing that memory bank in order to make you feel safe for no reason. Because it's great to feel safe. And now we can layer another experience. Fly with me on the wings of time to a time in your life, to a memory, when you realize that you have a natural ability, a gift, inclination towards something. And it could be something very simple, like you've learned how to read really early on, or you learn that you have capacity to listen deeply, or pick up someone's emotions, or maybe you are math whiz, or maybe you're great at writing. It doesn't matter what it is. Remember the scene when you realize, oh, I know how to do this really, really well and really, really fast. We all have that memory. Bam, we're right there. And what are we doing now? We smell what we smelled in that moment when we first learned that we have that ability. We connect to our physical posture. Maybe you're in a classroom, maybe you're in an auditorium, maybe you're in your house. Connect to the whole context, colors, sounds, smells, your own breathing pattern, your own physical posture. And what you do next, you notice there is a wonderful feeling connected to this experience because it's confidence, right? It's effortlessness. You exude that natural exuberant state from within. Maybe people are watching you, applauding you. What do? You point to where you feel that the strongest. So for me, it's lower belly, but I also feel it like almost in my throat. So it could be maybe a couple places. And then for me, the color is light blue. I don't know what is it for you, but you know where it is. And now what I want you to do, I want you to just watch with every breath you take and every beat of your heart, how the sensation begins to move from its point of origin, and it starts to travel from the source into another part of the body and another part of the body. And all I want you to do is follow that feeling. Just like you would follow the melody of your favorite song, just how you follow the smell of your favorite food. It's intoxicating, it's organic, it's natural, it's effortless. It's like a favorite scent of your perfume or your lover, whatever makes you feel intoxicating. And you just follow that feeling and simply massage it into your own body, into your entire neurology. Saturate yourself, absorb it like a sponge. Beautiful. I'm already in an altered state. Smiling, tingling. You're going to have your own personal experience with this. And you can make few circuits. I can really go on and on about this. We can create a movie, a Spielberg movie about it. We don't have time right now for that. But that's a preparation work, right? And then let's clear something. So let's teach the audience how to start clearing. So once you feel really, really good, you're like, wow, it only took 5 minutes. And now you feel like perhaps it's gonna only take a few minutes to clear something that you don't prefer. So perhaps you experienced something in your life long ago or not too long ago, and you have a persistent feeling you'd like to clear. So whoever is watching, scan your body now from head to toes, because now you're much more connected to your neurology and to your physicality on a subtle level. And if there is a feeling that doesn't really sit right with you, point to where you feel it. First impression, very good. Now, assign a number to it from 0 to 10. Again, first impression. Imagine that there is a picture floating around you somewhere connected to that feeling. Go ahead and grab that picture, whatever that is. And that picture will have a color or series of colors. We create a frame around it so we know how big that feeling is. And we can bring the feeling closer to our nose. We can smell it. We can touch it. We can hear the left side, right side. We start having a 3-dimensional spatial experience with that feeling. Isn't that fascinating? We can now move the frame slightly away from the face, get comfortable, and think of that frame as a screen or a paper, and you can write on it or type on it. So depending on your preference, you can imagine that there is a marker floating, or maybe it's a computer screen or tablet. And let's start modulating the screen first. So you can use one hand or both hands. Let's adjust the brightness of that picture. Let's adjust sounds. Let's adjust any kind of parameters that you would like to modulate to your preference, by your definitions, your standards. Notice what happens with the feeling when you do that. And then if the number is higher than 5 connected to the feeling, that means there is a safety lesson attached to that experience. And that's why it's kind of permanent with you, right? Because it's supposed to protect you. But the technique I'm teaching, you will allow you to keep the lessons, but let the feeling go. So you might want to ask yourself, is it safe? Is it okay for me right now to let go of that feeling while maintaining the lessons, however unconscious or conscious there might be? And if the answer is yes, then we take our hands and we start typing or writing on the screen compulsively, naturally, organically. We're not trying to control it. We just type or write everything that's connected to the feeling that we would like to clear today, reprocess today. And this might take a few minutes or a few seconds. So if you're watching it and you need more time, just pause the video and continue, because when you start releasing, you start actually feeling, and things might come up, sensations might come up. So sitting with it, allowing it to happen is a part of a process. Yeah. And just nod your head when you feel complete, and I'll show you what to do next. Some people yawn, some people have this like sighing experience, right? Some people, yes, exactly, will start releasing tears. So many things can happen because it's obviously connected to neurological systems in the body. What we do next is we shrink that frame into a postage stamp size. And we simply imagine ourselves standing on a hill somewhere, and there is a breeze. We take both hands, take a nice deep breath, and throw that image behind you, that postage stamp size image, all the way. So put some force into it. Yeah, because you want to let it go. There you go. And now, try to connect with that feeling. Notice what happens instead. It changed, didn't it? Yeah. So we can do that with many, many feelings. I'll give you another quick technique that is very, very successful. If there is a particular scene that is unpleasant, maybe you experienced a physical harm from your parents or someone, you know, that was adult and your child, and you feel resentment or you feel fear, whatever that is, whatever the situation is, what I want you to do, I want you through your inner eye, through your internal eye, project that image onto the wall in front of you with your eyes closed, and kind of get an idea how big is that image. It could be that feeling connected to this image could be really big, bigger than the wall, bigger than the house you're in, bigger than the building you're in, bigger than the city, or it could be size of maybe a TV screen or half of the wall. You will know it instinctively. You do it immediately. And now what I want you to do, so you have that scene, perhaps you're being punished or whatever the case may be, doesn't matter. What I want you to do right now, I want you to start like a director in the movie, start slicing up this image. You can throw in some special effects, whatever you want. Could be a Mickey Mouse, if you like cartoons. You want to make this scene different. Stretch it out, shrink it. And as you're doing that, rapidly in your mind, I want you to start changing the colors from vibrant, start desaturating and go back to color, desaturate, go back to color. Start changing the size of this image, make it bigger, stronger, while at the same time trying to hold on to that negative feeling. And you do that however long you need to. You can use a marker and write something funny on it, or throw in like a favorite comedy clip, create a collage, completely distort that image while at the same time trying to think of that unpleasant experience. And rapidly, again, we're changing the colors. So we're desaturating completely and then saturating it again very rapidly. And also shrink and expand this image. Wow. Right? And now project the original image on that wall in front of you again. Notice what happened with the feeling. It's gone, isn't it? If there's something left, you can do the magic frame technique. Yeah. literally takes 10-15 minutes out of your time. You can open your eyes if you're ready. And if you wake up feeling off, what do? First, you bring yourself into alignment. You use one of these techniques. It will take 15-20 minutes of your time. And then you can start your day properly, right? Because those 15 first minutes of our awakened state are crucial. How we talk to ourselves, how we prepare ourselves, it's going to progressively become that.
Absolutely. That's really, really good point. It's we need to be aware and conscious of it and know that we can take management of our neurology.
Exactly.
Sometimes, like, the overly sensitive, we pick up stuff even in our sleep, or, we can have dreams or whatever, or we can wake up to some unpleasant sight or something we don't like. That's a really good way to remove ourselves from that state, remodulate.
Exactly.
It was
And people with heavy trauma, and I've had people who've lived so long in trauma that they don't even have energy to get out of bed. And I understand that we can be in different states, right? So even if it's like that for you, even if you have to take an hour to clear, then you will generate enough energy within to get out of your bed, brush your teeth, make yourself something to eat, depending where you are. Because I know, like you and I, we're dealing sometimes with people who are heavily depressed, right? So I understand that, it requires a little bit of efforting. But even if you're doing that in bed, and even if you are frustrated and crying, I don't care. If you just follow the steps, you will benefit from it. And eventually over time, and I've had clients with, severe adverse childhood experiences, few months of that work, of that care, at the beginning of the day or whenever the situation occurs, results in so many changes, positive changes in person's life.
incredible because trauma and those experiences is basically you remembering. It's like getting stuck in a loop. The past is past. It happened. It's not happening right now, but we get tricked into believing it's happening. So you're just wiping that clean. So
Exactly.
memories there somehow, the feelings associated with it changed. They get worse.
Exactly. If we break down, we can, like you said, remodulate and also create a new movie. There's so many things I could show you. We can create a new movie and put it instead of that feeling, because once we clear something, there's so much space. We want to put something there that feels better, right? So always we can think in very creative ways. What would feel better here instead? And then connect to memory that feels better. Follow the steps that I already showed you before. If you connect it to a sensation, to a sense of smell, a sense of touch, and all those other senses, then you can really deeply anchor that feeling that you prefer, connected with a color. You can blow it in, stitch it in, massage it in, create an anchor for that positive feeling. I have several of those. So this one is for clearing for me, right? This one is for ecstasy. Whenever I have a great experience, I load my gun of positivity right here, and I have my colors. Mine are gold and emerald, right?
I do highly encourage people to, if they do this, to watch this again, to remember that, because you've done this over time. But if it's just a fleeting experience, it may not work as well. It needs to be gone back to and tried.
Yes.
You did ask me a question. I just want to give a very quick, simple answer. So the bulk of my practice is Ayurveda, and I am a restorative yoga teacher. But I don't work that way. It's like I mix everything up into healing art. But there's one concept in Ayurveda that is absolutely important and pivotal, always needs to be looked at, and it's like this life science. We look at nature, and what you said in the very beginning, the feelings, the sensations, the smell. It's like we use nature to work to our advantage. So if for instance, the cause of something it gives a feeling, or it's even like through it something jagged and uncomfortable. If we continue doing that, it would push it further in. But if we balance it out with something the opposite, like increases like, and so we use dislike to decrease that. So basically, you took us through that practice. That's science, and this is like ancient science. It's like modern science and ancient science, and it's all the same.
So it's sort of reverse engineering to the way you came to the state that you were in when you came into this world. Mm. The thing is that we live in a society that doesn't believe in healing, right? Like in America, for example, you are not allowed to use the word cure legally. If you're a medical professional, you're not healing, right? Okay. So it is something that became ridiculed over time, even though there's so much evidence, science-based, that we innately can activate healing responses within us. And Western medicine does the same thing. The purpose of it is to activate a healing response, but the healing response comes from within. Mm-hmm. So, I am showing ways, and you're showing ways for your audience, for your clients, to find a way back home by triggering certain systems in the body. And they're sort of like a tower, there is a house of cards, and there you have a certain structure within you for which emotions flow, your preferences, everything that we live with every single day. So it's just knowing that those positive emotions also live within that structure, within that castle. Mm-hmm. You just have been so used to not feeling those, and you think they're conditional. They're based on people or circumstances. That's the big trap, relying on outside resources. We've all been told these lies as kids. And love was conditional for most people. Parents preferred this versus that behavior. They didn't teach most people kids how to regulate their emotions by themselves. It's huge. Knowing how to self-regulate emotionally is huge. That's a whole other topic, right? That I talk about in my book.
It differs from culture to culture as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Gender to gender,
Mm-hmm. So it's still not a common knowledge because we've been bombarded with not complete information. Mm-hmm. And obviously we're learning, science is developing, spirituality is developing, but the safe bet is that all resources are within. It's really just...
I totally agree. I totally agree with you. That was the philosophy that I followed when I started this practice. So I know we're going to be wrapping up shortly here, but tell us about the programs you have coming up, but tell us also about where people can find you, your websites, your social media handles, because you're on YouTube and Instagram, and you're pretty active at times. So tell us a little bit more about how you can be found, and also what you have coming up, because I believe you have some stuff coming up, and by the time we release this video, it's going to be October, and you will have a program, correct?
Correct. So I am in the process of finishing writing a 6-week trauma healing program, which will be an online course designed for everyone who is committed to feeling better and feeling well no matter what, and really going beyond the circumstances and the past experiences. If you are a person who's ready to let go and start shaping that internal landscape by your preferences, by your definitions and your standards, I will be offering a 6-week course. We will be practicing those techniques. Also, we will be talking about different emotional attachment styles that happen in dysfunctional families. So there will be some theory just to help people recognize toxic patterns, because if you were brought up in an environment that normalized centered behavior, you could not differentiate between what is good, what is bad.
Wow.
You had, right? You just internalized.
Because you're normal. Yeah.
Correct. So some people that come to me, they don't know terms trauma bonding. They don't know terms triangulation. They don't know what are narcissistic tendencies. They don't know that certain people use children, parents, in order to anchor their power in the family dynamic. Okay, they regulate their own internal states using other people in the family.
Right.
So we're gonna go through some of those patterns in the family dynamic, because most of trauma stems from childhood, so that you can get better idea of like how to navigate people in your life and how to recognize that somebody might not be the right person for you. So it's not just healing yourself, right? Because you might be feeling so good, and then what happens? You go into the world and you're gonna encounter certain people. How are you gonna swift through those tendencies? You're not gonna change everyone. If you're gonna change yourself, people have no choice but actually change naturally, because if you hold that frame, that new frame, obviously it's connected to like your whole presence, your body position, you know, you're going to be confident, you're going to be exuding power. When that happens, people cannot act the same way towards you. So, you know, learning how to actually exude that power, not overpowering others, but holding yourself to your own standards, right? And then knowing that some people will act out, noticing you're not here to fix anyone, but you're here to recognize, okay, maybe it's time that person fades into my horizon, or how do I deal with difficult people in my life?
Very powerful program.
Yes.
So how can people find you and sign up for this?
My website is balanceisperfection.com.
Balanceisperfection.com, and I'll share that down below, and also like
perfect. Perfect. And my Instagram is Balance Lab by Aga Furtak.
All right.
I also have YouTube channel, and I have plenty of examples of sessions, so maybe we can link one session. But Instagram is where a lot of my free content is: session samples, just spiritual inspiration, mental health tips, just, you know, useful things that are not based on, again, belief or esoteric even schools of thought. I am focused on, of course, you know, I have my own preferences in terms of like how I like to express myself, but I'm focused on practicality of healing.
Yes.
Using a language that is accessible, because just like you, I work with people from all over the world. Some people find me online. I work with people from Asia, you know, from Latin America, sometimes from Europe. So we have a common language of neurology, of psychology, of symbology of our subconscious mind. So this is the kind of content that I post, and you can find me.
It's very interactive. I like it a lot. I like your page a lot. Every time you post, I read.
Yes. I'm about to make a new post about secondary gain, because that's something I encountered with some people that came to me. And I think it's important to recognize your own intention as a client and learn that there are no quick fixes. Some things are very quickly resolved, but if you think you can shift your responsibility into the therapist, that's when problems start. That's where projections start, assumption. And I had, you know, some examples. So that's my next live on Instagram. But everyone is invited to interact with me, ask questions.
If they miss it, because you know this might be released after you've already done the live, they can always check it out on your IGTV, right? And I know you do those things very often. So thank you so very, very, very much. I mean, the practice by itself, just incredible. You showed us, you know, so many different ways, and probably tried 3 or 4 different things. I mean,
and how do you feel after your exercise?
you know what? Given that we had a little bit of time, because last time we worked, it was 100 minutes. I went in quickly, but I was releasing for a long time. And I could release so fast. And it's just, maybe I was ready. Maybe enough work had been done. It was just incredible. I mean, I do feel the shift. I do feel the difference.
Incredible. I'm so grateful. I look forward to meeting new
Thank you
people.
so much for your enthusiasm. And everyone, thank you for being with Aga and I today. And I hope you come back and watch this again and use the practices because they're incredible. And make sure you subscribe to this channel and go to my website, asalshokati.com. Everything is below because I'm working on some very exciting things. Working on an academy so people can not only hear about all these things, but also get a better understanding of what ancient Ayurveda is about and how they can incorporate it into their daily living and also support their clients. So I look forward to connecting with more people, and hopefully we can have this, not this exact chat, but other chats in the near future.
Deeper. We can develop this into some other modality conversation, because the more creative we are with our own brain, with our own neurology, the faster we not only heal, but we just become activated. You become activated. I use the same techniques for learning Spanish.
Wow.
When I see, when I hear a word I don't know, I connect it to with what I already know. I make sure I involve all my senses, and the brain remembers right away. Yeah. You will recall the memory of numbers or words. Sequence of letters. So it's really just
empowering.
All the technology that you have within. It's so fascinating. That's why I'm so passionate about this, and I probably will just continue sharing as my life goes on, new ideas, new forms of upgrading yourself. And I look forward to meeting everyone.
We just scratched the surface today. And for the ones who don't know this type of work, I didn't know Aga, I'm sure it was a fascinating experience. I hope so. I cannot talk on behalf of everyone, but it's just the more we release, the more fascinated we become by ourselves. Let's just put it that way.
Exactly.
Thank you, everyone, and we will connect again soon. So I'm saying bye here in Houston.
Namaste.
Namaste.